Okay, this is number 46, and I copied number 46's A, B, C, and D right down here. But let's reread the question, and the reason I did this is because I'm going to go to the back of the book where there's some conversion factors. Using your knowledge of metric units, English units, and the information on the back inside cover, that's where I'm going to go, write down the conversion factors needed to convert. So a conversion factor would be one of those things that's equal to itself, and then therefore would be equal to 1. It's one of those ratios or one of those fractions we've talked about and used many times. So first is micrometer to millimeter, and I actually don't need the back of the book for that because I probably want my metric reference chart. And a micrometer is right here. There's the micro. And I want to go to milli, which is right here. And so there are 10 to the 6th here, 10 to the 3rd here. I know there's a negative sign there, but we just need the difference between the two of them. And you can see the difference between those two would be 10 to the 3rd. 6 minus 3 is 3. And so there would be 10 to the 3rd of the small unit in the big unit. And remember, the small units are down here, and the big units are up here. So which one's the small unit? Micro. There would be 10 to the 3rd of the micro in a milli. So our relationship would be 1 times 10 to the 3rd micrometers would be equal to 1 millimeter, and the conversion factor then would be the ratio of 1 times 10 to the 3rd micrometers is 1 millimeter, or equal to that would be the upside down of it, or the inverse of it, because each one of these is equal to 1, because this and this are the same. This and this are the same. And remember, when you divide two things that are equal to one another, you end up with 1. Kind of like taking 10 divided by 10. Well, you get 1. These are called conversion factors. This is the relationship right here. Letter B, milliseconds to nanoseconds. So milliseconds would be right here, milli once again, and then nano would be right down here. And we want to find the difference between those two. Start with the small, so this is 10 to the 9th, and then this milli here would be 10 to the 3rd. And so the difference between those two would be 9 minus 3, or 6. So there would be 10 to the 6th difference between those two. There would be 10 to the 6th of the small unit in the big unit. And which one's the small? Well, the nano. So there would be 10 to the 6th nanoseconds in 1 millisecond. Now I always like to write it as 1 times 10 to the 6th, because then when you use it as a conversion factor, you just take whatever number there is and multiply it by this number, and then you add the exponents when you use it. You could just write 10 to the 6th. That's okay. Just remember your rules of exponents when you're multiplying. So then our conversion factors would be 1 millisecond is to 1 times 10 to the 6th nanoseconds, or 1 times 10 to the 6th nanoseconds is to 1 milliseconds. Either one is appropriate, and you can write them both. Letter C, miles to kilometers. So now we need some relationships here, and we can see that there's two relationships. There's 1 mile is 1.6093 kilometers, or you could say 1 kilometer is 2.62137 miles. I'm going to use the second one and just say in 1 mile there are 1.6093 kilometers. And then my conversion factors, of course, would be for every 1 mile, there's 1.6093 kms, or 1.6093 kms for every 1 mile. And then letter D, the last one's tricky because we got a cubic unit here going to liters, and of course liters and cubic units are a volume right here. And you probably have to remember some relationships for this. First of all, we have to get from feet here into something metric. And so I think maybe our best bet is to go from feet maybe to inches, because we know that relationship, and then we can see that there's a relationship between inches cubed and centimeters cubed, or up here I could just do inches to centimeters right here and then cube it. And then once I get into centimeters, then I could go to cubic decimeters, which of course is a liter. A cubic decimeter, remember, is equal to a liter. 1 cubic decimeter is the same as 1 liter. All right, so a couple different ways to tackle this, but let's just do this. Let's start with feet cubed, and then let's give the conversion factor relationship of feet to inches. And there's 12 inches in a foot, and remember you'd have to cube that. And then after I go from inches, I can go to centimeters cubed. And I could use this relationship right here. In 1 cubic inch, there are 16.4 centimeters cubed. Okay, so that one I don't have to cube because it already is cubed. And then a centimeter cubed, remember, is a milliliter. So now I have to go from millis to liters. And so milliliter right here would be 10 to the third compared to liter. And there would be 10 to the third of the small unit and the big unit. And so centimeters cubed right down here. Remember, this is the same as a milliliter. Okay? And then decimeters cubed up here, or liters right up here, because remember, a decimeter cubed and a liter are the same thing. And there would be 1,000 of these in one of these. And I don't have to cube this one because this one is already cubed. It's a cubic unit called a milliliter. So this would be just perfect for a relationship right here. You could go ahead and multiply these numbers together and then divide it by 1,000, and then you would have the cubic feet in a liter. I'm sorry, cubic feet related to a liter. How many 1 cubic feet would equal a liter? But you can just leave it like this because this shows the derivation of the relationship between those.